Quotes are like essential oils. You make them by condensing something, but that thing is often lost in the process. Sun Tzu. I love quotes at times. They're often like the literary equivalent of short-form content. They are extremely condensed, you can read a lot of them in a short amount of time, and you feel like you're getting a lot done or learning a lot as you read them. You know, every time you read one that hits just right, you get that little dopamine spike. I mean, there are entire books that are just collections of quotes, and if you read through them, you'll definitely understand what I'm talking about. And the funny thing is, literature already has short-form things such as poems, haikus, or short stories in general. The other funny thing about quotes is that similar to short-form content, most of the time they're just cut from larger work, and in the process, they can lose a lot of their surrounding context. In fact, you can even go a step further and even start quoting sections of other quotes, or I guess misquoting something. The idea behind these quotes is nice. The goal is to try and communicate an idea in as short a form as possible. This can help the idea get further than it might have otherwise, and help to inform people. Except most of the time, the quotes just don't have the same punch that they did in the works that they were taken from, and they're missing key portions of context. That's kind of just what happens when things get condensed and chopped up so much. You can only fit so much information into such a small space without cutting things, so what you're often left with is something that doesn't have the teeth of the original, has a completely different meaning, or is so cliche that it might as well be a gray mush. There is such a thing as too condensed. Although I will admit that I'm saying all of this while I still have a quote as the background on my computer. Look, quotes have their place, but oftentimes that's because they're more meaningful or impactful to that specific person. It's basically like adding the context back. For example, the quote I have here is about creativity, and to be honest, it's something I already knew before I read the quote. I have it up here purely as a reminder. And quotes can be good for that, but they are not how you should be learning, or you should not try and use them in an argument. This is especially true as oftentimes things are just misquoted or wrong. For example, have you ever heard the quote, "Jack of all trades, master of none"? Yeah, that quote is often used as a way to say you should try and focus more on one thing as opposed to being scatterbrained, except that's not the quote at all. The full quote is, "A jack of all trades, master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one." And I'm sure some of you already knew that. Except I lied. Do you see the problem with quotes now? Neither of those versions is the true version. The original 1600s version is just a jack of all trades. The master of none part was added almost 100 years later, and the "but oftentimes better than a master of none" was added in the 2000s. Meaning the quote went from a mildly positive descriptor of someone to a negative description of someone to back to a positive description of someone while being a diss to someone else. Are you kidding me? This isn't the only quote like this too. The infamous "the customer is always right" quote has started being misquoted with a second part at the end being "in matters of taste." But what do you know it? That's wrong. The original quote is just "the customer is always right." It comes from the early 1900s when labor laws were more suggestions and 10-year-olds were seen as the perfect age to operate heavy machinery in a factory. A quote can just be dumb. We don't need to try and retcon in a new meaning. You can just stop using the quote. You shouldn't live your life off quotes. As things get more condensed, they need to lose meaning. A good artist can keep that meaning around for a bit longer while shrinking it, but you can only do so much. Quotes are fun. They can remind you of things or be a good initial guide, but you should not be informed by them. If you like a quote or are interested in it, then you should do some research around it and find out where it came from and the story behind it. We have the internet now, unlimited knowledge at everyone's fingertips. A quote can be a gateway to that knowledge, but don't let it be the end goal. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to subscribe for daily uploads, and I will see you tomorrow. Haikus? Haikus or haikus?